This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. One of the benefits, I think, of the new kind of 3.5 firmware in the cabs is that we are capable of dialing in the cabs to sound much better, I think, with heavier tones. And one of the knock-on impacts of this is that the Marshall amps, I think, are now more usable than ever, and I think they sound better than ever. In this video, I found that the 2204, so that's the GACM 800, and the 2204 mod, and the JTM 45 Bright, I think, stood out to me as sounding really, really great, probably better than ever before. So this is a video about that. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you find it useful, seeing these Helix kind of dialing in videos and that sort of stuff, or, you know, whatever. And leave comments below if you've got suggestions for kind of Helixy videos that you want. Right, so one of the kind of key criticisms about the Helix, and I think in some regards it's sort of fair, would be around the Marshall amp models. Now, if you've not looked into this a little bit, potentially if you're looking for classic sort of Marshall-y tones, you may be somewhat disappointed in some regards by some of them, because I think some of them are based on either transitional models or models without the bright caps in them, which is sort of a thing. I'm just putting a dynamic ambience here because this is going to be sort of like the room sound that I'm sticking at the end of my chain. So what I'm thinking though is that the new cabs might actually give us an opportunity to dial things in a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do, I think, is mix the 4x12 blackback, and maybe we'll mic this with something fairly full like a ribbon, and then on the other side let's go with this, why not, and again something fairly full. Since it's a Marshall-y type thing, I'm going to imagine I'm going to have a fair amount of brightness, so I'm just going to move slightly away position wise. Now up on this top bit here is where we'll kind of try and dial in some of this stuff, because I think there's a chance that by default this is going to sound just a little bit easier to dial in. The older cabs, one of the things, the bottom end kind of generally wasn't as tight, and the top end was potentially a little bit spiky. So what we got the JTM 45. So this will be kind of like your Hendrixy type amp, right, which is essentially based on a Bassman. And in terms of gain, this probably is not the highest gain amp ever. So you think about this sort of as like a bassman, maybe a little bit souped up, but not tons. Although that is sounding pretty cool. Right, let's leave that as that is. So that the JTM 45 default settings now I think work quite nicely. You know, adjust the drive to taste. If you want something cleaner, taking this down around 4. The JTM 45, as I say, is based on the Bassman circuit, I think, right? So in theory, this can do kind of quite nice. As well as drive. So that might be one Marshall that you might want to take a look at. Now, let's just bypass that for now. The other ones that we've got in here, let's take a look. So what else have we got? So we got this Brit Trem thing, which is actually a bit of a, this is a bit of a strange model, I think. It's a Plexi 50 with a trem. So this is kind of Plexi tones, but without a bright switch, I think, or a bright cap. And I'd say that for me, very much like a vintage kind of Marshall sound. Not something that I would necessarily gravitate towards. You know, a little bit on the flubby side. Then we got the Plexi, which I'm going to guess will be sort of the go-to that you would expect. So let's just try this default setting. Chuck it up. That's the normal, it's got quite a nice amount of chunk. The bright. If I had all the gain on the JTM 45, I think I prefer the JTM 45 to that as well. It's a bit tighter. But the Plexi can do some things. So that might be a little bit of a second choice there. Snapshot 3 will bypass that and add in, can we add in another amp? Not here, but if we come down here, I'm imagining we could probably get in at least one other amp. So let's just keep experimenting and see what we can find. Crazy, we got the P75, and that is, I believe, is that a Park? I think it might be, which is also going to be Plexi based. has quite a bit more bass, seems to be sort of somewhere between the JTM 45 and this Plexi. So here's the Plexi. Not bad at all. I think the bright channels for me are where it's at. The 2204 is actually the JCM 800. So I think maybe I would replace that. Let's keep experimenting, because I think that JCM is definitely really cool. We've got the Placated Dirty, so this is a Friedman BE. I've done videos on that. That would be a really, really good candidate, I think. Then we've got the Line 6 2204 mod, which is like a little bit of a, if you imagine, a modified JCM 800 with kind of a bit more control over the mids. So that, the Line 6 2204 mod is like a JCM 800, sort of with a tube screamer kind of chucked in there, kind of, but a bit more gain and also maybe a little bit more kind of classic focused. So I think once you pair these now with the new cabs, I do think you genuinely get a bit of a better kind of Marshall experience, just because the new cabs are a little bit tighter and a little bit more geared towards this high gain stuff, and so you can get some really cool tones. And I'm going to put in some delays and stuff as options. So let's go in here, stereo, dual delay as an option for kind of lead tones. But I think all of those to me sound really good. So those would be kind of my candidates for the best Marshalls in the Helix, if you were looking for these. Chorus off. So yeah, the JTM 45 Bright, also the Brit 2204 I think sounds really good, and then the 2204 modded also sounds really good, particularly if you're going for a bit more of a modern kind of tone. But JTM 45 Bright can do all of your kind of classic-y tones as well as really nice clean. So give those a try, maybe, if you're into this kind of Marshall-y stuff. I think those are some really good candidates. What else I could do is action, take this to snapshot bypass off, and I don't think I need that one there actually linked. That's another option that's in there then. So on any of those kind of Marshall tones you could. one last thing that I would do probably though is to introduce the noise gate for the heavier settings, maybe off here, and keep the threshold a bit lower, but so that I'm not getting quite as much noise through when I switch over to the noisier amps. For me, those defaults sound really, really good, especially once you paired it with the new cabs. I think those are, I don't know, changed, in my opinion, once you've got some decent stock cabs in there that work really well with higher gain tones like these do now. I think that really opens up the Marshall models for a whole new lease of life. So the 4x12 black back with a 160 ribbon, and the 1960A T75 with 160 ribbon. I think those work really nicely. So I'll catch you in another video soon. Feel free to like and subscribe. Cheers for now.